Well, let's get into this case, Dylan. It's one of the most infamous murders in New Orleans history. I'm talking about the story of Zack and Addie.
I've never heard this one.
This is a story, it's one of heartbreak. New Orleans is an energetic city brimming with art and history. You can take a walk down Bourbon Street, and it's like a sensory overload. You've got the music, the smells. You can taste like the salty air, and you just feel this energy that's pulsating from all these warm bodies that are passing by. And of course, they're entranced because it's just a place unlike any other I've ever been to as far as a city.
Yeah, I think it's known worldwide. It seems I've never been there, but I've always wanted to go just because even the energy translates through like videos of New Orleans or even people write an article about it, just the food and the culture and all that stuff. And it just seems like a really, really cool place. Very vibrant, colorful, very specific, unique. So yeah, I can't wait to see it.
Zack and Addie found their home and each other in New Orleans, sucked in by its free-living bohemian culture and easygoing lifestyle. Their southern fried romance was destined for destruction. I mean, you've got this thick, stale humidity of the French Quarter. There's deathly heat. You have apocalyptic storms so fierce sometimes that people think the city is never going to recover. And, of course, the story takes place just after Hurricane Katrina.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah. So, I mean, most of the city's literally below sea level. So, if it wasn't for the, levees and such, of course, we all know what happened when a lot of them failed. But I think it's easy to see that there's like an air of this city's not even supposed to be here, kind of thing.
They were two souls bound together by fear and addiction and violently split apart by abuse and a gruesome, ugly death. Death so tragic, it's still hard for many to speak of. Theirs is a sad tale of an aspiring poet and her wounded soldier. We're going to be talking about mental illness, suicide, and murder. Zack Bowen was a charismatic, charming, and good-looking young man who left an impression on just about everybody he met. He grew up in California and had that laid-back attitude that you often think of when you're thinking about these like guys who grew up on the beach, the surfer types, and it's just a laid-back kind of attitude.
Oh, my God.
What?
You're attracted to this guy. The description of this guy.
Well, he is like 6'6", but we'll get into that.
Is he 6'6", like 240, 235, 230? Big athletic kid?
Probably.
Pretty and blonde?
Yeah.
And tanned?
Yeah.
All right, move along.
His parents were somewhat bohemian, like hippie types, which seemed to leave an impression on Zack. His parents divorced when he was young, and Zack lived in California with his mother. Eventually, when he got into high school, he decided he wanted to move to Portland, where his father was living. And this was like his later high school years. I believe this would have been like his junior year. And his mom initially kind of objected to this idea because Zack's dad was more of a friend than a parent.
Well, I mean, that can be good, but it can be really bad if you're more friend than parent, I guess I would say.
Before Zack moved in with his dad, his father, his name is Jack, he planned this big road trip. And they were going to make stops at these big, like, party cities and just have, like, this blowout, fun, cross-country party trip.
Well, that sounds like fun, I must say. Zack and Jack?
Zack and Jack.
Okay.
So his father had some experience bartending. And he was like, okay, well, we can travel around because I can work just about anywhere. We'll stay in a city. If we like it for a couple days, I'll get a bartending job, make some more cash, then we'll move on.
Oh, okay. Well, true bohemian style there, I guess, right?
Right. So they decide that they really like New Orleans. So instead of heading back to Portland, the father and son duo decide they're just going to get an apartment and stay in the Big Easy. Zack soon dropped out of school, feeling like he didn't belong. And this was a very similar feeling to his high school in California. And as I mentioned before, he was incredibly tall. He was like 6'6", which made him stand out in just about, well, all crowds.
Yeah, any crowd except unless he's on the floor of the NBA.
And he just never quite felt like he fit in. He was just kind of awkward physically. and a lot of people feel that way. Like they just don't really fit in or find their tribe.
Well, yeah, I think I've definitely felt that way before in my life.
And while living in New Orleans, he's still feeling the same type of way there. And he's underage, drops out of school, and he's already drinking a bit around town at this point. So he's 17, not even 18 years old yet. And he starts hanging out in all the local bars, and eventually he takes a job working at a drink window, because if you've never been to New Orleans, well, it's a great place to have your drinks. They have actual windows where you walk up, you order your drink, get a shot, have a hurricane drink, whatever, and you can just take off.
Down the street?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That was cool. That was Savannah was like that. Or like, hey, pop in and grab a drink and walk on down the road.
Right. So he's working at this drink window, and that's where he meets a woman who's 10 years older than him, and her name is Lana Shupuk. She was a 28-year-old stripper. Now let's talk a little bit about Lana. She was adopted, and she and Zack had similar troubled lives. And at 14, she had ran away from home and became a stripper before even being a legal adult. When she met Zack, she was on vacation in New Orleans with a girlfriend. And the two continued a relationship after she returned back to Dallas, where she had been living. Now, the pair decided eventually to get a room together in New Orleans and take a stab at living together.
Well, I'm going to assume I was a young man once, 17, all that. And for one, being somewhere so lively and a place that never sleeps, kind of, New York City, these big cities, New Orleans, things like that, that could be a lot of fun. And I can see in my young mind and maybe making some decisions that weren't that great. And then along comes this older woman. She's a stripper, so I'm going to, in my head, pops up a certain look, kind of flamboyant.
Well, she was really pretty, and she was very tiny, petite, brunette, like a beautiful woman.
Okay,
so... And she didn't necessarily know, like in the beginning, I should add this, that Zack was young.
As young as he was.
I mean, she assumed he's working as a bartender at this drink window. She assumed he at least had to be 21.
Well, yeah, that makes sense.
So she didn't realize until... they were already like in a relationship and living together how young he was.
And that would be a bit of a shock to someone.
Well, and it was for her. And this was something that was a point of contention in their relationship, kind of back and forth.
Almost like you didn't straight out lie to me, but also you didn't early on say, hey, wait a minute, do you know I'm 17 years old?
Right.
Okay.
Well, and at this point, I think he's about 18. So,
right.
I mean, he's grown, I guess. But when you're 20, and there's a big difference in 28 and 18. I mean, I think we can all say that.
Yeah. It's a 10 years at any point in your life, 10 years. But I think at certain points it means more. And when someone's still in their teens and you're 10 years older than them, I think that means a lot more than 28 and 38, if you know what I mean.
Well, by the end of 1996, she discovered she's pregnant. And he wanted to be involved. After their son was born, Zack was devoted to their child. Zack worked 2 bartending jobs, focusing on his child when he had the free time to care for his baby. And as a teenager, he was still kind of living his party lifestyle in the French Quarter. He eventually talks Lana into marriage. She found out she was pregnant again. So after their second child is born, they had a daughter, Zack decided he needed to do something with his life. I mean, this bartending, working 2-3 bartending jobs, you're up all night, and then you've got 2 little kids at home, and you're just not making the money. You don't have health insurance. I mean, these are things that you have to think about when you get those adult responsibilities.
Well, yeah,
he's got a family.
He got the responsibilities before he even got the mentality to go with it. Now he's kind of literally growing up as he's, living this life with 2 kids.
Right, so he makes the decision to join the military. His brother was in the Army, and he had spoken to his brother a little bit about the Army, and, his brother was like, man, I'm doing great. I love it. You should sign up. This would be good for you. This is a great chance for you to, get your shit together.
Well, it's like you described to me, and we've talked about it. If you're a young person, no matter if you're with someone, have kids already, it is really a great opportunity to make some decent, pretty good money, get all kinds of training, get college education out of it, real-world experience. I mean, it really is a great opportunity for many young people.
In 1999, Zack got his GED, and then later, in early 2000, he enlisted in the military. He went to basic training, and he did pretty well there. In October of 2000, he was deployed to Germany. That was his permanent duty station, in which he was pretty excited because he had really wanted to be stationed in Europe. And normally, like, people who've been in the military know this, but they'll let you fill out what they call like a dream sheet. And you can choose like your top 3 choices.
Oh, okay.
It's not often that people actually get their dream duty station.
Well, let alone on your first, assignment.
Well, exactly. So the fact that he really wanted to go to Europe and get stationed in Germany, and he was like over the moon with this, saw it as like this new adventure. And fellow soldiers saw Zack as an endless bottle of energy. He was entertaining, he was fun to be around, and he settled into military life, making friends with a group of English-speaking civilians that were Germans in this town where he was stationed. And he was performing his duties with no problems. He was deployed to Kosovo in 2001, and when he arrived on his deployment, he was like a gunner on a Humvee, and it was nothing that exciting. But eventually, they had to do other work, like dealing with some of the Serbian forces, where he was able to see, like, okay, this is not just a cakewalk.
Well, yeah, I mean, it got, pretty hairy there in Kosovo and for, a little while as far as our involvement there. So, yeah, I'm sure when you actually see engagements and, maybe people dying, then you're like, I guess it really brings it home to you that this isn't just a game.
Lana was still in New Orleans, and he really wanted her to make the move to Germany, but she hadn't even, like, completed the paperwork to get herself and the kids there. And I should mention, because Zack is 6'6", like, he has a really big foot. I think they said he had like a size 17 foot is something I read.
Oh, God.
And he never quite found boots that would fit properly. So he developed a pretty serious case of, is it called hammer toe? Hammer toes?
Okay, so just from scrunching his feet in these boots? Or
Yeah, so he started to have a lot of foot problems and eventually has to undergo like a foot surgery. And he was allowed to go back to the States and do some R&R after he had the surgery, so he's over there for a little bit. And so when he's back in the States, he really pushes Lana to join him in Germany. He even goes as far as like filling out all the paperwork and getting everything taken care of so she can bring the kids and come to Germany. And things in Europe were not necessarily what Lana had expected. Now, it was known around base that she was a former stripper, which was a point of pride for Zack. I mean, he was like, hey, everybody, check out my hot wife. Look how cute my wife is, right? Like, he's proud of her. He's like, she's gorgeous. She's beautiful.
Well, yeah. I don't blame him.
Right? So he's like flashing pictures of her, whatever. So, of course, all of his army buddies are like, yeah, okay. So they're kind of looking at her as this object. And of course, you know that those wives didn't necessarily like this, and they didn't really want to have anything to do with her. So she was feeling kind of lonely, isolated. Zack's doing his thing, and so she's kind of here with the kids and doesn't know anybody. That's going to be tough.
Well, yeah, and then you have this one kind of small group you would expect to, if you want to interact with or be accepted into, and it sounds like that's not happening. So that would make it pretty tough to come to a new country, knew everything. I mean, and then have, people that you should be able to connect with not really care for you because they're judging you.
Well, that's got to cause some friction between the couple. I mean, even if it's not Zack's fault this is happening, but still, it creates a little tension in the relationship. So on September 11th, 2001, we all know an event happened that would change the world. And Zack was shipping out to Kuwait. He began doubting the Army's mission, like once he got to Kuwait. He didn't really believe that there were weapons of mass destruction, and he felt like the American people were being lied to, and that caused him to start resenting the military.
Well, I'm sure he's not the only soldier who maybe felt that way, because that just didn't seem like we ever have, people in power being very truthful during that time.
And he was just like, I don't think this is right, and why are we going here after September 11th? I mean, he just was like questioning his role and like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, why are we not going to Saudi Arabia? Because there's a lot more connections to that country.
Zack was one of the first troops to be sent over the line from Kuwait into Iraq, and the soldiers were poorly supplied. They found threats among the civilians, like people they thought they were helping are actually trying to kill them. And they were marching in the desert heat, wearing like the gas masks, the full like donning mop level 4 like gear. So you're wearing like 300 pounds of gear and it's hot as fuck and you're marching through the desert. So, I mean, this was not a fun situation.
Well, yeah. And if he's lost kind of his motivation, and he doesn't think that we should be there or the Army should be there. I mean, that would that's a tall order. And then you take you there in the desert, which is kind of a different kind of, theater for war for us, compared to the jungles and stuff we've been building for that for years. And so, it's going to take a logistical time period there for the Army to catch up with what their troops really need. So he's at it early on, and they're just getting the wrong kind of gear, not enough of the right gear. So I bet that would just be miserable. 120-degree days.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds horrible.
I mean, it does sound like it was definitely not the most fun experience. And eventually he was set up in one of Saddam's palaces in Baghdad. Now, morale was improving, and they felt like they were doing a good job there. And Zack even kind of improved his attitude about the military because he felt like, okay, we're helping to protect these kids. We're setting up schools. We're protecting this local population. But that didn't really last very long. Zack had more problems with his feet, and because of that, he wasn't able to go do like the foot soldier work. Like, he wasn't able to go out on patrols, and he wasn't kind of out and about. They put him in like an office job, so he was just kind of like fetching coffee and like doing paperwork, and he just felt bad about it. I mean, one, he wanted to be with his buddies, and then two, he just felt like, well, I'm a piece of shit because I'm not out serving the mission.
Well, yeah, what part of it I think is right, and the part where we're helping people, I'm not able to be a part of that. So yeah, that could be messed up.
But he was promoted to sergeant while he was in Iraq, and while he was there, his wife Lana was diagnosed with hepatitis C while he was deployed. She was really ill, and she was struggling to take care of the kids because she's back in Germany, and she doesn't have any family. She doesn't really have any friends, and this woman is like seriously sick.
Wow, so she's, finally came to Germany to be with him, and then and it doesn't sound like too long of a time, he gets a big event in the world happens in our country, he gets sent to, Iraq, and so she's just left there by herself. That must have been really hard for her.
So she needs to undergo the treatment, for the hepatitis C, and she's really sick, and here Zack is deployed, and he really wants to be able to go back to Germany and, be with her, but the military is basically ignoring his family emergency. And this makes Zack even more angry and resent the military, and at some point really, even grow to hate the military. Then he ends up losing a female soldier friend. Someone who he's really close with is killed in a mortar attack, and the combination of all these problems just really start to mess with Zack's head. He was depressed, and finally he gets to go back to Germany and be with his wife and kids, but when he does show up, he's just different. Like his wife said, he just was not the same. He seemed almost like a broken person.
Oh, well, that happens a lot.
And when he gets back, he starts having headaches and depression and a lot of stuff, and it's shortness of breath, and he's got these foot problems, and the headaches and shortness of breath and some of the depression issues he was having are definite signs of PTSD.
Yeah, and that's before they even started recognizing that, right?
Right. So in January of 2004, he learns that there were no weapons of mass destruction, and he's livid.
As a citizen, during that whole time, I was involved and, followed it closely, and I was pissed. I felt like we'd been lied to and all that stuff. But I could only imagine having literally been one of the set of boots on the ground over there, dealing with the environment, seeing stuff, losing friends, people dying, God, I could only imagine how that would make me feel once they actually came out and admitted that basically this is just a big pile of bullshit the whole time, and there were no. Yeah, I couldn't imagine how he felt at that point.
Well, he decides he's going to get himself discharged.
So he's done.
His plan is to do this by failing his PT test or his physical fitness tests. So by the fall of 2004, he was discharged with a Chapter 13 separation. Now, his company commander recommended that Zack be given an honorable discharge because he had proven himself to be a good soldier. He had these 2 deployments. He was in these 2 separate combat zones. He was promoted quickly. He was a really hardworking guy. Everybody thought he was just a great, squared away, can-do kind of soldier. But there was an Army colonel that looked at the information and was like, we're going to give him a general discharge.
What the hell? There's always one guy who ruins it for everybody.
Well, this is not a good thing. So under a general discharge, Soldiers lose benefits, and it can be really difficult to find like a regular job later on.
Really?
Like if they do background checks, if they want a copy of your DD-214, I mean, that's pretty much is going to exclude you from being able to get any kind of government type of job.
Or any of the hiring preferences and things to veterans and
right,
such?
and all the VA benefits. I mean, and he's got these problems. He's got the foot problems. He's got the PTSD.
Wow.
So he wouldn't be able to qualify for any of those benefits.
So that's a big deal.
Wouldn't be able to get his GI Bill. Wouldn't be able to get a home loan. I mean, the VA home loan. So I mean, there's a lot that really can impact you if you don't have the honorable discharge. And he kept this from Lana. So when he finally shows up at home and is like, hey, guess what? I'm out. She didn't know that he had been planning this. She wasn't expecting it. And she was just like, what the hell?
Yeah.
You uproot me, my kids. You bring us here. Then I'm sick. You're gone. And then, we've made all these sacrifices so you can be in the military. And then you're just going to fucking get yourself kicked out. Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
So as you can imagine, she wasn't real happy about this. And she actually broke up with him. She flies back to the States. She's going to look for an apartment, look for a job back in New Orleans. So he's left in Germany with the kids. And, given his record, the general discharge does seem very unfair.
Well, yeah.
Just like as an outsider looking at it, I'm like, it's not. I mean,
well,
it's not right.
It's not like some of those people who do it and they figure out very quickly it's not for them, so they just kind of give up on it and fuck off and cause problems or all that stuff. It sounds like he genuinely tried. He did put in work. He earned his way, and I think that's kind of messed up to get done like that.
Well, and I feel like if he had a chain of command that was even remotely like decent, they would look at this guy and say, hey, we just got back from a deployment. He's got family problems. So we wouldn't let him have the leave to go take care of this.
Right.
He's got medical problems himself. We were just in a terrible situation. And then now all of a sudden we're back and he's a guy who's in great shape that's intentionally failing his PT test. Like, that a good person in charge, a good leader would recognize that and be like, hey, what's going on? Like, there's more to this. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
I just feel like a good leader would recognize that this was like almost like a cry for help or a cry for attention.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
So
I agree.
That's just my opinion. What do I know? So when Lana finally takes, they go back to New Orleans, she takes the kids. She basically is like, hey, I'm leaving you. She picks him up at the airport. She announces that she's met someone else and she's dating someone else.
So she's had enough.
Right.
I mean,
she's just done with the marriage. This is not working. There's just too much going on.
I don't even view that like what the hell's wrong with her because she's had all this time alone. She's went through all this stuff.
She's much older than him.
She is, a decade older, which is quite a bit. And she may, be in a different point in her life,
right.
Thinking a different way. And now she's done all these things. And then he kind of just, in her eyes, maybe, gave up or didn't make her sacrifice seem worth it by, hey, I'm out of the military now, damn this, let's do something else. So, yeah, I don't think she's a bad person for this.
Right.
Definitely.
But he's devastated and lonely. I mean, he wants to be with his kids. He really wants to be with her. He's madly in love with her. So he is very, devastated and just sinks into, a deeper depression. Now, when they're back, he kind of manages to find some odd jobs around the French Quarter, but things have changed. He went from being kind of this cute hotshot bartender to coming back to a town that the, tourism population's just really booming and there's a lot of competition to get those service industry types of jobs. So he's come back and things are different. So he's not just a shoe-in to get a job.
Well, yeah, and he's a really big guy, 6'6", and I'm sure some people look, hey, do I want to be behind the bar with this big monster of a man? People think about things like that. So, yeah, I could see that.
And here Zack is. I mean, he's this, war hero, but he's suffering from the severe PTSD, and he just desperately needed some help, and he never finds that. His relationship, very strained with Lana and the kids, and that's tough on him as well. Now, eventually, Lana decides that they should live together again, but just so he can help with the kids and so he can still be in the kids' lives. I mean, she recognizes that this has been really hard for him. So she's like, we can live together. It'll be like a roommate situation. You can spend time with the kids. You can have some stability of a place to live. We can help each other out, help pay bills. But she had no intentions of rekindling this relationship. And he's like kind of hopeful that like, ooh,
Well,
I see this moving back, that,
yeah.
things are going to be back where they were. And so,
Well,
again,
yeah.
that's another blow.
Well, yeah, anytime you take, when one person is done with it for whatever reason and they're trying to move on, but the other person, man or the woman, kind of, wishes it wasn't over. I understand what she's doing. She's, she cares for him, obviously, and she wants to help.
And she wants her kids to have their dad,
and she wants to make
he's a great dad.
But that's a tall order. That would take two special people to be able to come back into that roommate situation, but still be separate. I mean, that's a pretty special situation, and it'd be hard for anyone to do.
While she's dating someone else.
Yeah, unless you both are truly over it and you're doing it for logistical purposes, cool, but most of the time, one or the other is not going to work out.
Well, it's messy. And he finally does land a regular job at a place called Hogg's Bar, and he ends up working the midnight shift, which sucks because he's there late, but it's actually like probably the most money-making shift, which is good for him. But it's just like, as Dylan would describe it, it's dusty. It's this dusty bar, and from what I read up on it, like, it was just kind of one of those divey bars. It's probably not super touristy. It sounds like more of a local watering hole. There were like a lot of transsexual strippers that would hang out there.
Oh,
so
okay.
It was more of like an alternative type of place. But he's handsome. He's cute. He's getting a lot of attention. Men, women, like everybody's flirting with Zack. And,
so he's getting them tips.
And he's like eating it up because he's, he can play that game and he's flirty and he knows how to work it. So he does pretty well there. And it was at Hogg's that he first met the short, fiery woman known as Addie Hall. And though Zack really liked her, she did not seem to reciprocate those feelings at first. She was a 29-year-old with a reputation for being a spitfire.
Oh.
A temperamental, loudmouth, and a woman who liked to drink a lot. She worked at Hogg's on the day shift, and she was kind of known for not really getting along with the other employees.
Oh, so it sounds like she has a big personality, doesn't care to tell you what she thinks. And yeah, just like whatevs, bruh.
Exactly. Yeah, just real straight shooter, no filter. I like her.
I was going to say, it sounds like you.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Maybe.
Except for the lots of drinking.
Yeah. Well, maybe when I was in my 20s.
Oh, yeah.
So Addie Hall, let's talk a little bit about her. So she's like this free-spirited, feisty-tempered, independent, artistic woman who had found herself living in New Orleans after having a really rough life. She was raised in Durham, North Carolina, and then I think they kind of moved around a bit by her Vietnam veteran father. She dropped out of high school and had traveled around the country. She lived all over the place in the late 1990s and finally settled on New Orleans. She instantly fell in love with New Orleans. She was a poet, an artist, dancer, and a French Quarter bartender. She had a lot of friends. She was super popular, social, like a staple of Bourbon Street in the French Quarter. Like everybody knew her.
Yeah, it sounds like you wouldn't miss it. You would see her, notice this girl if you went somewhere and hung out.
And Addie was weary of relationships with men because she'd experienced a lot of abuse in her past.
Why? Some men are just really big assholes, and I just don't get it.
She rode her bike around the French Quarter to get to and from her job and to run her errands. So people recognized her. She was kind of always riding her bike up and down the streets. And she worked as a bartender at Hogg's and also another bar called the Spotted Cat. And she called herself a Puerto Rican, which is someone who belonged in and was a part of the French Quarter.
Oh.
It was kind of a clever nickname.
Okay, that is clever.
Life as an artist is never easy. Some of you may know that. And you try to find that balance of being able to do your art and have that expression, but also how you going to pay the bills and being able to kind of manage those things. And it can be tricky. You're working a full-time job. You're worn out. You don't feel like coming home and painting or writing or whatever, right? So it's like finding that balance. And she definitely seemed like she didn't really know how to fit those pieces together.
Well, I think in my experience in life, people who are very, very artistic, no matter what it is, no matter what it is, creating something they're passionate about, they think about it all the time. It's hard for them to even like concentrate to keep their mind on some, just whatever regular job thing or something, because they're always thinking about or daydreaming. You know what I mean?
Why are you looking at me like that?
Well,
I feel called out, Dylan.
Well, I'm saying, overly creative people, which is great way to be. There's nothing wrong with it. But yeah, it is hard for them to just, kind of stop, turn that part of their brain off and do these mundane everyday tasks.
Well, listeners, you may know this person. We probably all know these people who are kind of quirky and artistic and creative, and they just don't necessarily fit into the everyday. And it's almost like trying to fit a square peg in a round hole kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Because they're not cut out. Like, they would flourish if they just were given the freedom to create and express themselves, right?
Well,
but you try to put them in like a 9-to-5 or some sort of strict, scheduled, regimented sort of job, and it's probably not going to work out too well.
No, I think we should treat them, some of these people like, philosophers during the Greek times, where they basically, were taken care of in some ways, to where they could just literally sit around and think up these concepts and ideas and just get these people, make sure they're comfortable and see what they create, the beauty and different things they could create or come up with.
Well, Addie was kind of in the middle of this. Like, she just really, it was like she was struggling to be creative and to make art and to like pursue that. But at the same time, she's trying to work and pay bills, and often working like, 2 jobs, working double shifts to make ends meet. And so she found herself in this place where, she's trying to find herself. She's a young woman. She's trying to find her muse and what inspires her. But then she's battling her own demons. Obviously, she's got a lot of trauma from her past and her childhood. And then she also has addictions because, like I said, she was a drinker. Like, she was a drinker and was known also to, partake in drugs.
Oh, my God. Not drugs.
Well, like cocaine and stuff.
Oh, that's the real drugs.
Yeah.
Hey.
I don't just mean she's like smoking the reefers.
Smoking the reefers?
No, I mean, she was like drinking and partying and like, who's got the coke?
Yeah, well, she's having a big time there.
Don't make me pull the rice out.
I'm not even sure what that is.
I'll listen to Riff Raff.
Oh, okay.
The rapper?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was going to say you should throw bird seed so you don't hurt the birds, guys. Take care of the birds at the weddings.
But Zack was instantly drawn to Addie. I mean, for Zack, she exemplified everything he had grown to love about New Orleans. The culture, the lifestyle. She just represented everything he loved about the city. Like, she was such a free spirit, and she was like so creative and just so like funky and out there. And he was just like immediately like, yes.
She likes Coke.
I like
what's
her.
not to like, right?
Well, she sounds fun, Dylan.
She does sound fun. And I'm sure he was just like, after he's kind of went through all these things personally, been over, into other countries and the military and this thing with his first wife and his kids. So I'm sure he's just taken aback when he comes across this free spirit who's fucking doing Coke off the bar and taking shots, drinking, what is it, Studebakers or
what?
What's the one where they drop the shot down in the beer?
Is that an Irish car bomb?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
A Studebaker. Is that a drink?
I don't know.
Y'all, if you know anything about a fucking Studebaker drink, hit me up because I bartended and I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah, well, I'll make that drink. I'll make that drink up later.
Okay. Will it be like your son's bartending?
No, we won't tell them about that.
Oh, I have to tell him. So Dylan's older son, I mean, he's an adult, right? We were going to hang out one evening. We were like, hey, why don't you come hang out with us? We're thinking about having a couple drinks, which, well, that's rare for me, but we were just like, okay, we're going to like get a little loose, have some drinks. So we invite his son over, and his son's like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to the liquor store, can you grab me something? And Dylan's like, sure. What do you want? So then Dylan comes home, and I'm like, what is that? He has pineapple vodka,
yep,
sour mix, and Coke.
And a Coke.
A Coke, like Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Not like Coke, but
no,
like,
I didn't have any of that
like
Coke.
born in the Atlanta Coke.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola.
So we had a Coca-Cola, some pineapple vodka, and a sour mix.
Right. So
and I believe there may have been a little Malibu rum mixed in there, too. I'm not sure.
I think we had the Malibu.
Oh, my God.
But anywho, I was like, what the fuck is this shit? And you were like, oh, well, this is what, he's going to drink. And I was like, I don't know any drink. No.
It would call for this.
And I'm no mixologist, but just having worked in the bar setting and know my liquors, I'm like, that does not sound like a good drink,
That stuff doesn't go together.
It was a terrible drink, and he learned this. And then we were like, well, what possessed you to ask for these things? Have you had this before? And he's like, no, I just threw out a couple things and thought I'd give it a try.
Off the top of my head.
Like, that is not...
I'm like, what the fuck? Your try just cost me like $32, bruh.
That is not how drinking liquor works,
No.
child.
If I'm going to drop like, $20, $30 on you at the liquor store, it needs to be something that I know you're going to enjoy, not some shit you just like threw random things in a hat and shook them up and pulled it out. I'm like, what the hell?
I know. What is this, like Chopped, where you get like a mystery basket
Yeah.
of like booze and you have to make a cocktail?
Yeah, you got to make
actually be a fun game show.
You got to make a cocktail with these pork intestines. Yeah, what the fuck?
Hey, I'm going to give you vodka and this can of Vienna sausages, and you are tasked with making a new martini. Anyway, it was gross, so I thought I'd share that with you guys.
It was gross, and we'd only share that with our incredible patrons because you understand that we're dumb asses and we're full of shit sometimes. But so here we are. He's met this incredible girl.
Yeah, he's just blown away by her. He loves her. She's fucking sassy and mouthy and just, she's a little firecracker.
Oh my gosh.
And she's like this little tiny petite thing, so she's a little bitty.
And she don't take any shit.
No, and he's just like, damn. So he's all into her. She's just kind of like, whatever.
Oh, so
I'm not into you.
Okay. I'm not into you, super tall, big, handsome guy.
Yeah. She's just like, whatever.
Okay.
I'm done with you fucks. So anyway, it took him a little time, but eventually he woos her. And so by the end of like 2005, or I'm going to say I say the end, but it's probably like around July, August, they start hanging out.
I know how he did it. He drug out a size 17 up there and sat it on the table and was just think if you know what the word proportions means, right? Even if it's not perfectly proportioned, we're still talking about a lot. Big size 17 girl. You see it right here, don't you?
Do you speak from experience? Did some guy show you his size 17 shit?
No, I was gonna say, I ain't got no size 17.
I feel like you should just stop talking.
No, I'm saying that's what I would do if I had a size 17.
Okay, our patrons probably don't want to talk about a dick right now.
All right, well, I'm just saying that's how he did it.
Y'all, do you hear him? Somebody do something with him. Okay?
Somebody come get him. He's talking about a penis.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, so they're hanging out. And I should also mention that Addie was known for being abusive, cruel, and pretty terrible sometimes to her friends. So not only did Addie drink a lot, I mentioned she liked the cocaine, and she had a nasty temper.
That's not a good combination.
Friends would later say that Addie seemed to prefer men who were kind of dangerous. Like when she did date, it was like a drug dealer or some guy who was super abusive. It's almost like she craved the dysfunction. She wanted to fight.
And some people bring that into their life, and it's seemingly on purpose, and I just don't understand that sometimes.
She was in a lot of bar fights around the French Quarter, and she even hurt her shoulder in like a serious fight she had.
Oh my God, I've never been injured in a bar fight.
Right.
Yeah.
So by August, Addie's introducing Zack around town as her new boyfriend, and the pair quickly moves in together. Now, Lana, his ex, is happy about this because she's like, oh, cool. He met someone. He seems to be really into her. Awesome. He's moving on. I'm moving on. I want him to be happy. So she was fully supportive of, yes, go move in with this young woman. So she hasn't
doubled back on her wanting to be, she still wants to be separate. She's glad to see he's met someone, so she's cool. Everything's good with her.
Right.
Okay. Well, that's healthy.
He and Addie are in the midst of this, brand new romance. They're honeymooning. That new, you love somebody so much when you first meet them kind of feelings.
Oh, yeah. I still got that for you.
I know. I love you, too. Well, it was around this time that the storm, Hurricane Katrina, was making its way toward the city.
Oh, my God. The entire area is going to be just totally devastated.
Dating for only a few weeks before Katrina came into view, Zack and Addie decided to stick out the Cat 5 hurricane together at her apartment. So here they are in New Orleans amid the storm. The lights are flickering on and off. water coming in, just not a safe situation, right? But here they are, falling in love, and they were able to make their self like a little life in this destruction. And
Okay.
they are even documented, like, after the hurricane, news media comes in and there are photos where, you know, they're making national news because they're just like chilling. Like, they got their booze and they're like high-fiving. People talked about how Addie was like flashing the cops.
Okay.
And the National Guard, like the people who were coming there to help, she would like flash them from her apartment, built, you know, her little balcony, and just partying as usual.
I still had some liquor and coke up there.
And at this point, like, they become really inseparable. They serve up booze. They're making scrap meals of whatever they can find. And like I said, Zack and Addie were photographed for national magazines, newspapers. They are interviewed about their choice to just stay in the city and hunker down. So they kind of felt like the king and queen of the city.
Okay.
But when reality sets back in, everything kind of goes back to normal. The cleanup begins. Zack and Addie are forced back into this lifestyle that maybe they weren't ready to experience again. Like, the news kind of wearing off. They had this really kind of fun, exciting time. But then it's just back to business as usual.
Yeah, and everything's still all tore up. And, you know, maybe the new smell's kind of wearing off their relationship a little bit.
Well, it's like, you know, they have to go back to work, and they are both working in the bars and working at different places, and they're probably not being able to spend as much time together, just drinking and having fun. It's like the seriousness of, you know, adulting sets in. And here's Zack, and he's got like these responsibilities. He's got kids, an ex-wife, and like, she just wasn't really looking for that. I mean, she wanted to party, do drugs, hang out. And then here's Zack, who's like, I got responsibilities. Like, I can't just lay out of work. I have things to do. And so it just starts to spiral into this whole like physical and emotionally sort of abusive relationship. Like, they start bickering. They're getting into these huge fights. They start to have violent fights.
Well, that's not good.
No.
For any, and it's not good. It doesn't matter who initiates it. Or even if you're just toxic together, that's never good, and it's just not healthy.
Well, it's not, and it seems that from most reports that Addie was like the aggressor in these situations. Like, she would get drunk and she would start like physically attacking Zack, and he's a big dude, and he was just kind of like, what the fuck, and would leave, and then that would make her even more angry. You know.
Well, it's just a cycle that becomes, you know, comes and it keeps happening. You have someone with addictive, you know, qualities there, and some people are mean drunk or an unreasonable person when they get intoxicated. And then even though he's a big guy and she's this little girl, he still has the right to not be attacked and, you know, just being treated like that. That just gets old really quick.
And it was her apartment, and she kind of kept kicking him out every time they'd have a fight. I mean, it's just not good. But they decide, okay, we're going to try to make this work, and how can we do this? Let's get a brand new apartment together, and we'll just start over from scratch.
Well, that could help if everyone's on board to truly, let's change this, get out of this rut we're in.
They'll be like, new house, who dis? So they walk down Rampart Street, and they see a for rent sign. It's an apartment above the famed Voodoo Temple, and it was available immediately. They had the money, so they were like, hey, walked right in, made an offer, and boom, brand new apartment.
Well, I wish I could find another place to live that quick.
But as quick as they move in and start to get their boxes unpacked, Addie goes to the landlord and asks that her name be on the lease and her name only.
See, that's not a good sign. It sounds like she wants to continue having this position of power in the relationship so she can do her thing. And that's not good.
She believes, and I don't know, like, there were conflicting reports, but it just seems that she had this feeling that Zack was cheating on her.
Oh, okay.
Right? I mean,
Well,
their relationship was kind of trash. They're fighting all the time. She keeps kicking him out. He's clearly gonna go stay somewhere. And she just starts to be kind of paranoid, like, I think he's cheating on me. And who knows if he was. I mean, it could just be her own drug and alcohol fueled
Well, it could be her
paranoia.
own insecurities making her feel that way.
Exactly. Right?
Okay.
So she thinks he's cheating on her, and she decides this is the last straw. And considering her past with men, she had this real end-all, be-all sort of situation. Like it was all or nothing kind of thing. So she just sort of flies off the handle. She wants this apartment to herself. The landlord writes her this handwritten contract and tells her, Addie, you need to go sort this out with Zack. But okay, we'll give you this handwritten note. So once Zack finds out that she's like gone behind his back and tries to get this landlord to give her the lease and whatever, I mean, he gets pretty pissed off.
Well, I mean, he thought they're getting this place together, new start and things like that. And, whether or not he's cheating, if he is, that's definitely not going to help the relationship. But, maybe he's like, oh, she just wants all the power again. Who knows how he's feeling. But it can't be healthy. Can't be good.
At around 1 a.m. on Thursday, October 5th of 2006, Zack strangled Addie to death.
Oh, my God.
In a drunken stupor, he fell asleep next to her corpse on the futon, and he gets up, goes to work. His coworkers remember him kind of acting out of sorts, like wearing sunglasses and a hat. He's really quiet, and over the next couple of days, Zack cuts up Addie's body in their bathtub with a hacksaw and a knife and starts sort of dispersing the pieces of her corpse. He puts some on top of the stove and attempts to cook it. He puts body parts in the refrigerator. Yeah.
Well, okay, look, I didn't know this story, and I totally thought that she was going to kill him. I mean, seriously, that's where I thought this was going. And
can I get a famous Dylan? What the hell?
What the hell? I mean, seriously, yep. I'm just blown away that he is the aggressor. And continue. He's cutting the body up. It sounds like he's had a break from reality. I mean, it sounds like way more than, oh my God, I can't believe what I've done. It just sounds, staying there with the body for days on end.
No, he absolutely had a break from reality.
Okay.
Right?
Oh my God.
He places her head inside a pot and puts it on the stove. He puts her hands and feet in another pot on the stove. He puts legs and arms in a roasting pan in the oven. And then he finally puts her torso in a black plastic trash bag, stores it in the fridge, thinking he's going to deal with it later.
Okay.
Now, apparently his intentions were to separate the bone from the flesh because he thought it would be more easy to handle.
Okay,
in disposing of the body.
He's not into cannibalism.
No, but when this story breaks, there are tons of rumors and misinformation out there about cannibalism, but the autopsy reports have confirmed there were absolutely no signs of that. But it has become something of like a New Orleans legend.
So basically, he was trying to break the body down as far as he could for disposal purposes. And still, I mean, anytime we've said it before, I'll say it every time. You cut a body up, it's a different kind of stuff. There's no accident to it. I mean, you're in a very specific mindset at that point, and I think it's way crazier than maybe accidentally killing someone. But when imagine the smell in this apartment with the boiling and the baking and the oven and the extended days in a New Orleans environment. My God, I could only imagine what it smelled like.
Well, by all reports, it seemed that like Zack and Addie's friends and coworkers were beginning to kind of ask like, what's going on? Hey, where's Addie? I haven't seen her. Do you know where she is? And from what I can find, he started telling people that she had left and went back to North Carolina. And a lot of people were really surprised because they knew she loved New Orleans and just couldn't see her leaving. But some other people were like, nah, okay, that sounds like Addie. She's unpredictable. She has a tendency to kind of run away from situations that she doesn't necessarily have control over. She's got this really volatile temper. So yeah, maybe she got really mad at him and was like, fuck you, and left.
Yeah, I'm out, bitch.
So, it's crazy. And little did these people know that Zack knew like exactly where she was and what he had done to her. If only they knew, right?
Damn.
So on Tuesday evening, October 17th, 2006, which is about 2 weeks after the murder and dismemberment of Addie Hall, Zack Bowen committed suicide. He jumped to his own death from the 7th floor of the Omni Royal Orleans Hotel.
Oh, wow.
He had a handwritten note. He had his army dog tags inside a plastic bag in his back pocket, and he had the keys to Addie's apartment in his front pocket.
Damn, so he couldn't live with it, what he had done, right? I mean, that's what it seems. I mean, sounds like he may have been fighting depression and all these other issues as well. And that was just it. It was too much. That's very sad.
There was a letter that was written to police, and it led detectives to Addie and Zack's apartment. They go to the landlord, ask a couple of questions, and then eventually they discover that everything Zack had written in his letter was true. They found broken dishes, unopened boxes, a disheveled apartment that obviously something had gone down, looking like a fight.
Right, a struggle,
everything's
apparent
thrown
struggle.
around.
Yeah.
They notice there is a temperature. The air conditioning was setting on 60 degrees, and it was like a cold, like it felt like a meat locker.
So
the minute they walk in, they were like, what the hell? Because it was like freezing cold in this apartment. I mean, when you're in New Orleans, it's hot as fuck.
Yeah, it sounds like you had on the lowest setting and it had been just, shut up, no windows open or anything.
So they didn't even smell like the rotting flesh or anything like that when they walked in, which I find hard to believe. They say the bathroom was clean, but it's kind of odd. The walls were spray painted. I love her. I'm a total failure. And then there was a spray painted thing that said, look in the oven, and it had like an arrow pointing to the stove.
Oh my God. Oh my. So who's the guy who goes opens the oven?
So what they discover next, of course, is something I'm sure they will never forget when they opened the pots, opened the stove, and look inside the fridge.
Yeah, I would say that everybody involved in that investigation there is definitely something that they'll never forget. I could only imagine.
Zack's letter to police said, "This is not accidental. I had to take my own life to pay for the one I took. If you send a patrol car to 826 North Rampart, you will find the dismembered corpse of my girlfriend Addie in the oven, on the stove, and in the fridge, and a full signed confession from myself." And it was signed Zack Bowen. Now...
my damn, I don't even know what to say.
This is the letter that they found in the pocket when they discovered his body after he's jumped off this roof. At the scene of Addie's murder, they find journals with writings, and they were like some of Addie's journals, and he had added some scribblings in there. One of them said, "Today is Monday, October 16th, 2 a.m. I killed her at 1 a.m. Thursday, 5 October, I very calmly strangled her. It was very quick."
Wow.
Tenants of the apartment above the temple since this murder has occurred talk about how they've experienced paranormal activity. Like they feel like they're being watched. They hear voices. The walls feel like they're pressing in.
Well, anytime with a kind of a extraordinary murder, if that's the right word to use, I think you're going to have people talk about it. It's going to become a story, a legend, urban legend, or of some type. And so I don't know. Maybe then people really are experiencing something, but I think that's normal. That typically happens around these kind of cases.
Sure. And again, you mentioned the urban legends, and of course the story has become.
Well, I mean, they live above a voodoo shop.
Some people swear, "Oh, he was a cannibal. He ate her body, or he tried. Oh, he committed necrophilia on her dead body." I mean, those stories have come out over the years, and then many people believed because the apartment was above a voodoo temple that the negative energy or something somehow.
Oh.
It was like black magic or something. I mean, so of course those stories come out. Now, the former voodoo temple that was there, I guess has closed and moved elsewhere. But from what I found on the internet, of course, Googling, is that building is leased by like some other voodoo sort of based company or like a voodoo priestess, and that they've turned it into like a paranormal museum, and they were doing tours of the apartment for a while.
Oh, I thought you said they were going to turn it into a yoga studio, voodoo yoga. I just made something. It's like hot yoga, but it's got like demons and stuff.
Yeah, my friend, we came up with the vegetable yoga.
Oh, how's that one work?
Well, it would be like you get back to nature, so you're like, gently place the cucumber on your spine as you go into downward dog.
Oh.
And make sure you balance it there.
Oh, God.
Ginger, my friend Ginger and I.
Well, I was going to say, did Lori Vallow, is she the one heading up that yoga session there?
No, that was like my calm, like NPR white lady voice.
Oh, okay.
Like gently place the cucumber on your lower back.
You could
find yourself lowering gently into downward dog. No, Lori Vallow's like, hi. That's my Lori Vallow voice.
Oh my God, I think we're going to do an episode with her.
Hi.
For real.
You should do an interview with Lori Vallow.
Hey, Lori, you killed your kids.
Yeah.
Yeah, so...
They were zombies.
Yeah, well, maybe you're a fucking zombie now.
They were going to eat me.
Oh my God. Who tells you this shit?
They were going to suck my soul out of my butthole.
It's almost like you started a relationship with a guy who runs a doomsday cult and he told you a bunch of bullshit and you believed it.
Yeah.
Almost like that.
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's almost like I'm married to you and I believe your bullshit sometimes. So
yeah, well, at least I'm not telling you that we got to murder our kids because they're fucking zombies and their spirit's been invaded by a demon.
No, you just tell me other dumb shit that doesn't really make sense.
Well, at least it's not going to lead to murder.
We don't know that yet.
Okay.
Dang, guys, we cranked you out like an hour-long episode, but I think you have earned it. Y'all deserve it.
They deserve it, and we're going to start trying to get more what we consider a full-length episode. We love talking to you, and this was a great story. I think I rambled at times, but this was a great story. It was very interesting. I'd never heard it, and like I said, I was totally taken aback when it went down the way it did.
Well, I kind of wanted to give you guys a bit more background on Zack and kind of dive into his background.
Yeah.
Because he was the aggressor. He's the
murderer. I think you need to know.
And there again, like, you were like, dude, that totally flipped a switch. And that's kind of why I did it that way, because I wanted you to see that, like, she was kind of the Spitfire and the violent and like aggressor, but then he's the one that ended up losing his shit, snapping and killing her.
But I think knowing his background and the tours of duty and all the stuff he went through, even as a young man started, I think that really helps you understand. I mean, it doesn't make it okay what he did, but it helps you understand what he did a little bit better, I think, than if you just said, hey, there's a guy, Zack, he met this chick and killed her. You know what I mean?
All right.
Yeah. All right.
Well,
there I go again.
That has been the tale of Zack and Addie. It's such a sad story. So tragic.